very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. As Otman said, it was complicated to organize it. It was also complicated for me because I had to leave Geneva yesterday evening. It wasn't planned at all. My father was in hospital. And so it was kind of a bit strange. So I didn't have much sleep. And maybe you know, people who have lack of sleep, they act like people who are drunk. So it's true. I didn't invent that. So if I'm kind of acting weird or something, don't think I'm crazy. Just put it on the hospital chairs where I tried to sleep, or maybe the early train. So I would like to talk a little bit about transparency and about the battle which is related to that, because the quest for more transparency in public affairs takes the explorer on a long and winding road. And if it's not a battle, it's at least a guerrilla. And with most guerrillas, it takes conviction, determination, and even, to some extent, some stubbornness. It's not easy, and it's never acquired once for all. I would like to take you on that journey today. I would like to show you why that battle is worth the efforts, how transparency can build trust, how it requires courage, and why it could be vain or futile to fight that battle alone if citizens, in the name of whom we're engaging that area, are not taking part of it. So transparency builds trust. And trust is in the core of our democratic system. Without trust, political institutions and governments don't have any legitimacy. And as Otmar explained, I'm the State Chancellor here in Geneva, so one of my primary duties are to run and to organize elections and referendum. And if you live here in Geneva for quite a time, you know that elections referendum is a big deal in Switzerland. We vote every 3 months. Sometimes there are 10, 12, 13 questions that we ask the citizens. A normal average person would vote about more than 280 times in his life. So it's not just something you do every 5 years or something like that. So we need a lot of trust. First of all, we need trust in candidates for an election. But we also need trust in authorities. Just think about the countries where elections are postponed or cancelled, or where you have civil wars because people don't trust in the authorities who are organizing the elections. You need also trust in the processes of election and referendum, and trust in the tools you use. In Switzerland, we have the chance that if you look to international rankings, Switzerland is always very high in trust in governments and political institutions. So why is that? Where does that trust come from? It's definitely because the rules of elections and referendum in Switzerland are very transparent. And the second element, maybe even more important, is that we try as far as we can to involve citizens in the process. So for example, on election or referendum day, every citizen who votes can stay when the voting place is closed at noon. They can stay and they can see themselves with their eyes what is happening with their ballot. They can see how it's counted, how the process is going on. You don't have to register, you don't have to announce yourself. You can just be there and have a look as a citizen and to make sure that everything goes the way it should. Second element that we have is Geneva is one of the 2 cantons who have an independent electoral commission. So this is a commission where every party which is in the parliament is represented in it, and some independent experts as well. And these people, they are supervising and scrutinizing the whole process. And they are making sure that the law is respected, but also that the administration is operating the election in an efficient and appropriate manner. So trust is hugely important in electoral processes, but it's not only important for governments and institutions, it's also important, transparency, for the candidates. So here in Geneva, every candidate for an election has to fill in a form with information on his professional situation. Where does he work? On which board he is? Does he have shares of a company? Part of it is published. Another part, you can see it at the State Chancellor, as well as legal and financial prosecutions. So if someone has debts, everyone can know it. If someone has trouble with justice, you can see it. Everyone can see it at the State Chancellor. Similar thing for political parties. They have to audit their accounts by an external auditor before they transfer them to the State Chancellery, where everyone, journalist, citizen, can have access to it. So you can see that transparency is really the value on which the State Chancellery defines its values, which are public interest, reliability, and innovation. Transparency is not easy. I said it at the beginning. It requires courage and determination. Geneva became, in January 2003, a pioneer, worldwide pioneer in e-voting. We built an in-house made e-voting solution, state of the art still today, very good system, very sophisticated, very secure. We used it over 100 times. The cantons of Bern, Basel, and Lucerne are using it as well. And there as well, the state from the beginning made the choice that he wanted to be on the whole chain. So the system is developed, operated, and owned by the State of Geneva. So there is no private ownership which could limit the access to the system, which is very important for us. And so we realized that the more transparency you have, the more trust people have in the system, in the process. And so in 2010, we proposed to the Parliament, which agreed and voted a new law, which gave the possibility to all citizens which use our system to access to the court source. And that wasn't easy, I can tell you. In the beginning, especially public servants, they were very reluctant. They were worried that people would criticize their work. There would be somewhere something which wouldn't be very nice, and that would cause them troubles. But still, the need for openness grew. And then the Pirate Party and the Swiss University reviewed the code, and it ended up that it was a very positive experience for all of us. So back then, 2010, remember, NSA scandals and everything, and there was a kind of a shift. Before, closeness meant security. If you had a digital system and you wanted to make sure, you had to build walls around it. You closed it up. But that changed. Today, openness means security. And for e-voting, as voting is a sensitive field, and e-voting even more, we need a lot of transparency because we need a lot of trust. So that means for e-voting, we have to put the whole code source on the internet, accessible for all of them. Not only someone who asks it, but everyone in the world should be able to access to it. That wasn't easy at all. That needed a lot of persuasion, because it's not something which seems obvious. People don't understand on the first step that why it would be more secure to open it up. People ask, but wouldn't it be easier for hackers to hack our code? How can openness bring security? Is it worth the efforts? Is it worth the risks we are taking? Yes, it's worth the risk. It was a bold step, but it's a necessary step. Let me take an example in a non-digital field. If you have a public park, and young people are vandalizing that park, you can put cameras at night, you can put a policeman in every corner, you can close the park at night, but this problem will still be the same. But you can also try to have a dialogue with these young people, understand why they are doing that, what is the matter. And if you are able to involve them in the management of the park, and that they feel that it's also their park, they won't destroy it anymore. They're not destroying their room or their parents' apartment, because it's their own. So that's what we are trying to do with e-voting. to create a community where people feel that it's not someone else's tool, it's our democracy tool. And it's a difficult way, but we are not alone in that way. So we already organized 2 one-day workshops with hackers, with experts, with people from university, journalists, political scientists, and we tried together to write a roadmap how we should go to open source, and even more broadly, and not only digital, what do we need to have the trust of citizens? What is important for them? Because it's not enough to have a highly technical system. They won't believe you that it's secure. They have to be able to touch it and to feel it. And so these workshops were really very important moments of intense creativity, exchange between citizen and public servants, which is still quite new in our sector. And I realized that for public authorities, the world has become much more complex and challenging. They can't hide anymore behind their institutional role. They have to develop co-creation skills and to interact with citizens and to talk to them on the same level field, which wasn't the case maybe 10 or 20 years ago. So that's something new and something very important. And the second point I learned is that transparency is not only a goal, but it's the way we want to achieve it as well. Transparency is useless if there's no one using it. You can have, again, the best technical e-voting system in the world, the most transparent one. If no one is voting, what's the point? You can have the accounts of all parties audited with the name of the donors. No one is looking at it. Is it worth the battle of transparency? This question might be there because there is not so much interest. But I still think that the battle is worse, otherwise I wouldn't come here this morning. I think transparency is a prelude to dialogue. If you really want to interact, you have to open that dialogue actively. You can't just wait that people are coming to see. Because even if in Switzerland public authorities and politicians are quite accessible, because Switzerland is very small, there is still a gap, and there is still, public entities are still seen as something complex and maybe cold and distant. And especially if you look to young people, only 3 out of 10 young people go to referendums and elections. They vote twice as less than the others. They vote as much or as less than people of 80 years old. And guess which are the population which votes the most? 70 and 75 years old. So I'm not saying that the voice of a young people has more importance than the one of an older one, but imagine if we were a company, a technical digital company, and we would like to, a referendum is to try to find today a solution for our problems and difficulties, challenges of tomorrow. So if you take a company, do you think a company to find innovation, to find a new tool that would revolutionize everything, do you think they would make a survey between their oldest clients? Maybe not. Maybe they would go to young people, maybe they would go to children, to migrants, to try to find something which would be the solution of tomorrow. So it seems to me very obvious that we have to try to engage these young people much more. We can't just wait, say we are transparent, just go ahead. No, we have to go and to try to find them and engage them. So that's why I engaged my staff on a different project, which we try to bring young people closer to the political institutions and to make civic rights more concrete and practical for them. So one of them is institutions in 3 dimensions. So that project came because I realized that the education in class often seemed to be quite not boring, but maybe quite, well. And it kind of surprised me because what I live with my staff on day to day is not boring at all. There is a lot of passion, there is a lot of sweat, there is a lot of fear, there is a lot of color, it's very lively. So our goal was to share something of that color and to show them, introducing into 3 dimensions. So we developed some exercises. So the classes, they are from 8 to 18. They prepare in 4 hours in school. Then they are coming to the city hall, where we show them around. So it's like a kind of a museum, the city hall. But more important than the place, than the museum part, is that they are able to do role plays. They are in the very rooms where government and parliament are holding their sessions, and they're discussing on the seats on real projects. And that's a very, very important thing, because if young people don't vote, they don't forget to vote. They don't vote, they don't feel concerned. They're thinking it's for someone else. And so I think it's very important, already young children, 8 to 10, 8 to 12, it's even if I had to choose only one age, I would choose this one. That's when they're really open, they're interested in everything, and there you can plant something which would, I hope, grow afterwards. The second project is called Ciné Civique. It's a film contest where young people from 12 to 25 this time realize a film of 90 seconds or a poster to engage other young people to vote. And that's also a very important project. We started in Geneva. This year we are 5 cantons. Bern, Freiburg, Neuchâtel, Vaud are also in the part. And a member of the national government is coming on the 31st of October for the prize ceremony. Last year we had the president of Switzerland who was there. So they're not only coming for the car exhibition, but also for politics and young people, which is a great thing. And the last project I would like to talk about very quickly is Democracy Week. As you might know, we have on 15th of September the UN Democracy Day. And we started last year. We are the first canton or city in Switzerland doing that, to organize the Democracy Week. So it's a week with exhibitions, with discussions, panels, art performances. And this year we had Tunisia as a special guest. So we had 35 events, and 5 of them were with Tunisia. We had Tunisian students who came here to discuss about democracy, and it wasn't at all Swiss people explaining to Tunisia what democracy is. The opposite, it was really a discussion again on the same level. For me it was important because in Switzerland we are so used to direct democracy. We are not even conscious that it's the most direct democracy in the world, and we take it for granted, and sometimes we are not aware of the value of direct democracy. So it was very interesting for these students as well to have a discussion with a younger and maybe more struggling democracy, and there were also things that we can learn from them. And if we take women's rights, Tunisian women had their right to vote almost 20 years before Swiss women, so there again, be aware before you give lessons to others. And even today, we heard about a couple of very interesting projects on transparency on a municipality level, where they had a kind of an intranet where all citizens in that town were able to see almost in real time what is happening with the money, and they could comment, so they could have an influence on the way the money was spent. So very interesting participatory systems. And so in Democracy Week this year, beside the more serious panels and conferences, I wanted to have something more festive. And so I asked the Youth Parliament of Geneva if they were interested to organize something for us. And they wanted to do a silent disco. I don't know if you're familiar with that. You are? I wasn't. So Imagine hundreds of young people with headsets on their ears, with colors. You have three DJs, and you can change the channel, so you change from one DJ to another, which is quite funny because you see kind of color waves, you know. One DJ is doing a great set, so everyone is going from red to blue. And so there were 800, you can see it on the here, 800 young people in the court of the city hall from 8 to 5 in the morning. So you might ask yourself, why is it related to transparency? It was for me a sheer act of openness, transparency and trust. To give the keys of the city hall to these young people. We were there a moment, but we weren't there until 5 in the morning. But as it was a referendum weekend, we came back only 3 hours after the end of the party. The city hall was perfectly clear, everything was great, and these young, enthusiastic people, they were versed that we trusted them. They were so engaged, they worked the whole day to prepare it, they worked the whole night to sell drinks, and then they cleaned it all up. It was just amazing. So, transparency is a battle. It's a guerrilla. Whatever courage and energy it takes, it's worth it. Because it's the beginning of a new journey. It's the road to change. But that road needs to be traveled by both. Not only public institutions, but also citizens. Because transparency is necessary. It's a requirement in public affairs. But it's not enough. There must be action and change. And that's the citizen part. Thank you for your attention.
So I'm going to ask you, if you have a question, please just stand up, speak loud, because I cannot run to get you the mic. And Anja's going to try to answer you. So please, who's the courageous one? Who has the first hand there?
Hi, Anja, I'm Brian. A question for you around, are you examining blockchain technology and what impact that may have on how you can make things more open and transparent for citizens?
Yeah, we are at the moment thinking about that. We had already a first discussion with different departments. The question came up, are there opportunities for the state? What could we do at the state? There is a conference, I think on 21st of November or something like that, or a public conference organized on that. And with the Secretary General, we are talking about that at the end of November. But there's still question marks, but at least we identified that there's something to do. There might be something to do, which is a start.
Yeah, the government of Estonia is very forward-thinking on how to implement this for the citizens.
Yeah.
For birth certificates, property documents, everything.
Exactly.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Yves. Picking up on what was just said, I'm curious to know what can be done to prevent false argument, wrong data to be used prior to votation.
Sorry, I didn't.
What can you do as chancellor to prevent someone to use false argument or wrong data to influence minds and opinion prior to a votation or referendum?
Almost nothing.
Who can do that?
I think that's something very difficult. That's the public debate. That's the fact checking. We can't. There is no police for arguments. That's the open political debate.
For data, there should be a police.
Yeah. What kind of data? If someone takes wrong numbers, or
yeah, I guess what is very impressive what you do in terms of processes and tools, and very inspiring to see everything you do for the young people. But it's the decision point. So everything which happens before can influence minds, opinions, and therefore votes. So I'm curious to know what can be done in terms of tools, processes, technology to have a more objective debate among the less subjective debate.
what is subjective? What is objective? The only thing we have where there is a process is what is in the red booklet. It's the official statement of the government, which is a quite complex process. So a department which is involved of, for example, Traversée du Lac. So one department will write a text, then the government will modify and adapt it. Then the parliament will also suggest some ideas, and then the government will see it a second time. And it's very difficult. We had twice a referendum which was cancelled because the court said that it wasn't objective enough. So it's a very, very difficult thing. There is no objective. The only objective we have there is that government and parliament agree, but still, it can be wrong. So public servants who would be the police for correctness, I think that would create more trouble than solutions.
Hello, Anja Wyden. I have 3 questions. Maybe I can ask them and see what you do with them. So I wanted to know how is it developed in other cantons? Is it something you were able to do like on your own, or did you have to collaborate? Are they?
You're thinking about e-voting, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, do they ask you to question because they want to implement it? Then I'd like to know what are the concrete measures you had to take regarding security. So it's a bit linked to what you said, and also what evolution you have seen between the beginning since 2010.
Yeah, the beginning of e-voting was 2003, and I arrived in 2009. What I changed was really the fact that we are going transparent. That was really my change. Before it was locked up, that was the security concept, and for me I changed it. I said, no, we have to open it up for transparency. It's a value in itself, but also for security. So the other cantons, there used to be 3 systems in Switzerland. One which still exists, from Seitel, which is a Spanish company, private company, which is used today by Neuchâtel and Fribourg. There was another system from Unisys, from American company, which was used by 9 Swiss German cantons, which is not used anymore. They didn't they couldn't use it for the federal elections because there was a security issue, so they stopped. And our system is used by 4 cantons. We are bidding at the moment for 3 other cantons and hope that they will join our system. We don't have really something to sell. We have something to share. That's the philosophy of our system. And that's the change. I mean, we had to change the law for that. We had to convince the parliament for that. Because you have private systems. Private company owns the system, can decide if someone can access the code or not. Then you have public system. It's our system at the moment. We can give access to it. But by going open source, so everyone can take it. So it will become not a public good, but a common good. So everyone in the community will be able to use it for free, if they are able to do it. So what we sell to the cantons that are doing e-voting with us is the service. We run the elections or referendum for them. On security, we had some changes. We introduced last March, the individual verifiability. So it's, as like e-voting in every system, the weak point is always your personal computer. Because we can secure a system, everything around, but we don't know what you're doing with your computer or your smartphone or your tablet, because you can also use smartphones or tablets. And so we introduced the individual verifiability, which is every citizen receives codes, personal codes, they are different for everyone. And so when you vote yes, you have a code for yes, you have a code for no, you have a code for nothing. And so you can check that what you voted is what arrived in the system. There's not someone in the middle in your system which changes yes for no, things like that. And now we are on the second security pass, which is the universal verifiability, which will make it possible at all moments to know exactly what happened in the system. So it doesn't really change something for the citizens, but it's really servers which are there, and you can mathematically reconstruct everything what happens in the system. I said for us transparency is a security matter, but it's not because we are going open source that we don't have to be on the top of security at all moments. So it will be the same. In 5-10 years there will be something else, and we always want to be on the top on security, but also reduce the risks, because Switzerland, it's a symbol in direct democracy. If I wouldn't feel at the moment the federal government limits it to 30% e-voting. But when we will have the next security step, the universal verifiability, we will be able to open it to 100%. I wouldn't feel secure if the system wasn't accessible, because there might be someone in the world, somewhere, who says, oh, I want to hack the Swiss system, because it sounds good. Swiss democracy, it's the most direct democracy. It's sexy if you hack a Swiss system. So that's why I don't only want to be at the top in security, but I also want to reduce the motivation of the hackers to hack our system. If you open them the doors, I think there is less risk that they come into by the window and they broke your window by coming in. That's the guess.
Because it's an open source system, do you also appreciate people who come with improvements? Do you hold, because as technology advances, of course, is it planned to keep it open source, so you have some workshops and continue these on a regular basis for people to contribute?
Exactly, that's what we want to do. So we will start before the end of this year to open the first part. It won't be open from one day to another. It will be by parts until the end of 2018. And we definitely want to create a kind of a community and work with people. So we want hackers to not hack and then say, oh, I hacked the Swiss system, but rather say, look, there's something, I think we can do it better. Let's do it together because it's our system. That's the point. And it doesn't come naturally. It's like transparency. You can't just be transparent and everything will be all right. You have to go and create that community. So we would like to have one person who's dedicated to that on a 50% basis. As soon as we will have the money for that, I hope it will be in January. There will be someone who can moderate the community and help people to be motivated to contribute. Yeah. Sorry.
Just a question. In my opinion, we have the advantage to have 3 levels of voting. At the local vote, by mail,
Postal?
post, and by e-voting. I presume that you can look if there is many differences between the results on the local, result by post or by e-voting. And maybe for me, in my opinion, will be secure more the election of or the votation.
There is no difference in the votes expressed between the different channels. But what is definitely the case is there are more problems with the postal and voting. I think in every election somewhere a ballot gets lost, or even if you take, for example, the elections, municipality elections, we had to invalid 1,200 votes because people were voting for someone from another city, people didn't write the name right, and so they wanted to express something and we couldn't take it. So that's much easier with e-voting because you're guided, you can't vote for someone which is in another community.
My name is Suzanne. I just had a question with regards to the new initiative of Geneva Law. This is the initiative to digitalize the public administration in Geneva. And I would like to know, is there any connections or any synergies you're going to build?
Yeah, we are working since the beginning with Patrick Genoux, which is the responsible of Geneva Lab. So we're working on most of our projects together. Like GovJam, in their presentations, the first example they did was GovJam. We organized it with them in the City Hall. So we are in the same mindset, and that's the good thing. I mean, I told you what is difficult in the public sector, but there are also in a lot of places some people who want the change. They're waiting for change, they're waiting for blockchain, they're waiting for new collaboration, and they want to take in account the citizens' voice, but it's not easy. Public servants are used to listen to politicians and to apply regulations and bills, and that's what it's their job. But we also need people who are in a more creative mind, and otherwise we won't be able to continue to meet citizens' expectations to a price that we can afford. We have to do things differently, otherwise we will do less with less. And that's like a company who has financial problems and they are not doing research and development anymore. It might be a good thing in the short term, but it's a disaster in the long term.
You talked about children and inspiration of Englishman. I think yes, it's very important. But how do you see in which this new generation and bring something, new ideas, or create, as you said, creative ideas?
So which generation are you talking about?
I'm talking about children, I'm talking also about young people, to engage them more in the projects. How do you see this?
Yeah, we have a lot of projects and even more ideas, but then we are limited by our human resources. We have a whole range of things. For example, we did a workshop at the LIFT conference last year. I think it was last year. How does technology increase political participation of young people? I think that was about the theme. So we came out with about 12 or 15 ideas. Some of them we realized. One of them was democratic gaming. So I think LIFT participants thought more about a video game, which is very expensive. It's sometimes even more expensive than a blockbuster film. So that wasn't in our range. But then we did a one-week workshop with the Art and Design School of Geneva, and they developed 4 prototypes of games. 2 were digital, 2 were normal paper table games. And one of them, we gave them a mandate, and they developed it. Now someone could commercialize it. Yes. And so it's a game. It's very funny. It's called the Democracy, and it was very successful. We used it for our open doors and for a couple of events. So that's one of the examples. We had another event on Democracy Week, which was very, very nice. I wanted to do on Democracy Week something with young children, so 8 to 11. And so we created an ideal city. So every day we had 3 classes of primary school who came again in the city hall, where they meet politicians who are in commission. They're coming out, they're in the sessions, and they're meeting them. So we had 60 or 70 young people in there, a lot of noise, nothing, and they had to build a city. But it wasn't just an ideal city, I want to have parks and everything. They had to have a certain density. They had to park a certain amount of people, so they had to make real decisions. Do we do big buildings and then parks, or smaller ones? And so they learned, and they had to decide in class on their plan. So they were they had also explanations on democracy, technical explanations. And so they made the plan in school, and then they came to the city hall and they built it with carton, paper and color, and it was just amazing. And on Saturday we had all these places on the next to the city hall. It was 60 square meter, and they made real decisions. And one of the decisions, one of the mothers, she said, "Oh yeah, that's a very good idea. I will try to propose that in my city, and so it might be realized." And a lot of officials said, "We would like to do that with adults." So it was a kind of design thinking workshop with young children, and it was a huge fun. and I think they learned a lot. It was not just we are doing funny, colorful buildings, but we have to choose. We have people. How do we organize? What are the collective buildings that we need? Is it a swimming pool? Is it a supermarket? They built a police station, which kind of looked like Pentagon or FBI building, and not like a local police station. But
congratulate you for this very great speech, and particularly for the concept you have for transparency. I think I will not regret to be here today, but I think there should also a little bit more transparency about what you are doing. I mean, that's so great. I didn't know what you're doing in the city hall. I didn't know it. I'm living in Geneva since about 30 years or more than that. Really, congratulations for also the e-voting. And I think it's a great chance to have a woman who is in advance for you. You're in advance for a lot of ideas. My question was, what can you tell us a little bit about the transparency between the state and the town, the government of the state? How is that working? Because I have the feeling it's going like that instead of going like that. So
I'm not sure that it's a transparency issue, but yeah, it's not always easy to have different institutional bodies who, in some fields, are working in the same field. I used to be in charge of social affairs in Geneva until 7 years ago, and we tried, for example, we had a lot of subventions, is that right? Subventions, and in social and healthcare affairs. There were about 150, and a lot of them, the city of Geneva also subsidized the same structures. So we tried to divide them with them, to say, you're in charge of that part of thing, we are in charge of disabled people, but it took 2 years. But it ended up to work. And so it's also what is doing the president of the government at the moment. He's trying to sort out between the different municipalities, not only the city of Geneva and the canton, to try to see which are which should be done by the canton, which should be done by a municipality. But it takes always a long time. But it's not only a question of facts; it's also a question of emotions.
no, it's something in progress.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're going to take one last question, just back there.
Hi, good morning. I'm Caroline, this is Adam. I hope we didn't disturb your talk in any way. I have 2 quick questions. As a British passport holder, living in Geneva for about 6 years now, I'm quite interested in current affairs. I'd like to vote, but obviously I can't. And I couldn't vote for the Brexit or against the Brexit either. So I feel a little bit disappointed, to be honest, in terms of what should be democratic for me living here and being a British citizen. What can you do what can you suggest, in fact, for us to be, as foreign nationals here, to be more involved in democracy? And what do you think the future
So you're here in Geneva for how long now?
I've been here for 5 years.
5 years. So Geneva is one of the cantons where you have the right to vote on a municipality level after 8 years. So in 3 years you can at least decide on and elect on the municipality level. When we changed the constitution 3 years ago, it was discussed if foreign people should be able to vote also on cantonal level and be elected. It was about half-half, but it didn't went through. But I think it will come in a couple of years. So Switzerland and Geneva is quite open to that. So Swiss people abroad, they can vote on cantonal and national level. And foreigners can vote in Geneva, but also in other countries, other cantons like Neuchâtel and some cities in the Swiss-German part. They can vote after a couple of years. In Geneva, it's 8 years. But then you can be involved, well, you can be part of a party, even if you don't have the right to vote. So you can take part of the discussion, even if you can vote. It's like the chancellor, you know, in government. So I'm part of the government. I can propose bills, projects like all the other members, but if they vote, I have no right to vote. So there are only the 7 voting, but I can talk, I can propose, and but they're not voting very often. It's about once a month, so it's not really a problem. But you can still take part in the discussion, and then also with other associations and communities, where they are not political parties, but they can be quite political to fight for, I don't know, migrants or ecology or other things.
Yeah, I'd like to fight for paternal leave.
Yeah, I tried to do that when I was in social affairs. We did quite a lot from Geneva. It's also a question of time.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.